Everyone, welcome to our workshop for the updates on regulations of the ESSER funding. And I am going to turn this over to Mr. Pye.
All right, thank you very much. My team abandoned me, and so I'm left to explain this to you or get it started. So y'all be kind to me tonight, and I'll try to go through this and explain it as simple as I know how to, but yet again give you enough specifics to give you some understanding. Then when I'm finished, if you would like, we will enter into some discussion of this and more clarification, maybe more specifics, so we have that understanding about where we're going with this. You know, how did this come about? There are three different ESSER funds, why they're different ones, and what are the federal guidelines that make them different, and then what ramifications does it have for school district 2, and when and where. And so I hope that this evening I can clarify those things for you. There's a lot of rumors out there, mainly because the information's been so vague. When the press does it, they said the districts have received so many millions of dollars. We've received nothing. We received an allocation, but you have to do a bunch of things and jump through a lot of hoops before you see any of that money. And basically, you're not even going to see it till you spend it. You do a plan, they approve it, and then as we spend it, they reimburse us. So they're completely in charge from day one, so they can regulate the funding and make sure people are following through on what they said they would commit to, which I understand, and we're okay with that. So to get started, I'm going to talk about the development of return to learning, which was back in 2020-21, in July, we formed our development return to learning plan that would be submitted to the State Department of Education. And that was done in the spring and the summer of that year. And we had a task force of 150 people. Some of you served on it. There were 6 subgroups made up of parents, teachers, students, staff. We followed the plan throughout the year. We did remain flexible. We got criticized when we were flexible. We got criticized when we weren't flexible. But we tried to adjust accordingly as we saw conditions in the community change, and as we learned more about it and guidelines came from our governor, from our president, and from other sources, we had to put that together, and also the concerns we were hearing from our community to try to find the best course of action. So we stayed to the plan, and we followed the course. As of today, we basically say we have followed it pretty closely. We have made a good many flexible adaptations along the way, and we think for the good of children and good of the school district, as we have learned so much more about this virus. And we've been providing updates to the board and the public at least monthly, if not almost every board meeting for the last 15 months. And also the information is posted on the district website. We moved to the full 5-day face-to-face in mid-February. That's what we've been looking for all year. That was our goal. We did that in mid-February for elementary students and March 1st for all of our secondary students. We have remained there through the remainder of this year with 2 days to go. I must say, I give us an A rating on what we've done. Our teachers did the best they could, and I think did a really good job considering we were rolling out all the technology at one time, and also all the e-learning and the hybrid learning, the different models, and our administrators having to change schedules back and forth. The first time having a virtual academy with 9,000 students and being able to navigate that and allow kids to come back face-to-face if the space was available, and it warranted it, was based on their progress or lack of progress. I think our schools did a remarkable job of trying to make those accommodations when they could. So I would say overall we stayed we stayed to the course, true to our plan, and adapted when needed. We quickly adapted, this is an example, to following the governor's executive order allowing parents to opt out their child from wearing a face covering. We did that right away. Like that very day, we had a memo to go out, only to have last-minute information to change it. So we changed it. In some courses, in some cases, we feel very good that we did wait and do it accordingly, since we know we've had a habit of things changing. But at the same time, other places were sitting on information, and media was sitting on information that made it look like perhaps we were sitting on information. We weren't sitting on anything. We just didn't have anything in concrete. And even though the waiver was given out, it had conditions for the waiver. It couldn't be changed. It had to be on that form and signed by the parents. And so we weren't allowed to take their notes or any other ways or means of doing the opt-out, except what the governor said they would have to do. Of course, that was made available, not in a week as they said it possibly would be, but it was done within 24 hours. And our parents were following that. Thank goodness they alerted us. We found out about it from our own parents in the community. So we've been honoring parent choice. That's what it's been about. And as of Friday, we have 5,447 students, which is 22% of our student body that have completed the opt-out waiver. That's 22% have done the waiver, and that leaves 78% still wearing masks each day to school. So you see it's still some division there, and a lot different than maybe we were told or thought, and there are all kind of reasons. I've heard them all for why people are choosing to do what they're doing. All right. Now we have a slide showing the 3 rounds of ESSER funds. There's been 3 of them. Along the way, we have received 2 rounds, with the 3rd one coming, of federal funds designed to help districts financially with the impacts of COVID and getting kids back to school. Neither of the first 2 rounds required public input. That's one of the major differences. Neither one required it. The 3rd one will require public input. The summer and the fall, ESSER I took place this past year. We called it the CARES funding. That was the other name. It was designed to help districts address immediate safety concerns, emergency and urgent use of purchased health and safety supplies, like hand sanitizing stations, PPE, and other things that you see up on this board here. There's a dozen things we threw there. But it was to help our district address immediate safety concerns and with health and safety supplies. That was the main course. Now, the state did provide some free to us, but it's never enough. And of course, we were trying to do the plexiglass on our own, and we realized we could not do that later on, so we had to use some of this funding like other districts were doing and round it out so that we had it in every classroom throughout our school because of our class sizes being unusually large. All right, then there's fall, winter. We came into ESSER II. Well, there's the examples. Go back to the examples. Go back to the one slide. I probably messed you up. That's some of the things we spent the money on. Look down near the 3rd bullet from the bottom, technology. That's where we went out, and we already had the devices, but we had to go buy hotspots and other things to provide because kids couldn't get this, and we were supplied a lot of those, and we purchased some, and we were able to supply everybody that asked. We kept reminding people, and nobody was turned away, and we seemingly made it with enough that we did have. We also had to carve out some of those funds to go to private schools. That was part of it since it was federal funding. Let's see another one up there. The sneeze guards that we went back and we provided those for teachers and staff. It's because our teachers felt uncomfortable using just the mask. They wanted those sneeze guards also. So we provided that. Nursing supplies and we had to do refillable water stations. That cost us a good bit of money because we couldn't use the water fountains. So that was on the approved list. That came to about $3.5 million, our first allocation. All right, ESSER II, skip that one, we did that one. No, there it is. ESSER II was meant to continue providing the district's aid to maintain healthy schools and healthy children throughout our district and our state and our nation. That's what it was for. It gave added emphasis, however, on this one to learning loss by allowing the use of funds for hiring of additional teachers to help keep class sizes low, to maintain social distancing protocols, and to offer additional instructional supports beyond the school day, such as academic overtime, Saturday sessions, after-school tutoring, etc., programs like that. Planning of more comprehensive and robust summer programs than in the past. This summer is a tremendous, lot of effort has gone in place. The staff, the schools have done a wonderful job of presenting a lot of remedial as well as advanced opportunities for enrichment for students throughout the school district free of charge. We have additional camps, recovery programs, remediation programs, enrichment programs. And we're going to be offering these through each summer through 2024. That's our plan, is to be able to try to pull out of whatever hole we find ourselves finally in, and are able to use this as a gauge to pull us forward even more. And all the various summer programs being offered this summer, we have 5,653 students planning to attend. That is a record for our school district. Other ESSER II expenses are up here on the slide. You see those summer programs, Saturday school, additional teachers, reduced class sizes. Wait just 1 minute, Ms. Crosby. Additional permanent subs in the schools, cameras for the buses for contact tracing, ionization units and air purifiers for all the classrooms in the district. We will have one in every classroom when we begin in the fall. Every class will have a purifier, and hopefully our air conditioning systems will have all been updated also. That's a big issue they wanted us to do. Unrestricted rate allowed for indirect cost transfer to our general fund, and that was important that we could do that. Ms. Crosby? No, that's everything. That's K-12. Put your mic up. Okay, she asked if this was for just high school, and it's K-12. And it's just the opposite when we met early this morning. I'm saying that's just for the elementary. It's not for the high schools, and they corrected me, so that's how they answered your question. I thought it was just the opposite.
Well, Mr. Pye, do you have a breakdown by chance? How many? I'm curious to know how many are going to take that advantage for high schoolers versus middle and elementary?
Yeah, we got it broken down by elementary, middle, and high, and that's coming up
Okay.
in my State of the District.
Okay, thank you.
In the regular meeting. Yes, ma'am.
While we're on this, this is great information. Is there a place on the website that this information is located as well?
It will all be on there as of today.
Okay, so a dedicated place where people can.
It's all over the place there now, but I'm asking to leave everything we've ever put up there so people can trace the history of it. But I wanted to come back and make this concise and informative, just as we're doing tonight, to summarize where we are and where we're going.
Perfect, thank you.
Because I'm even confused. We really have too much on there. Unless you've got bundles of time, you have to do a lot of searching to find what you're looking for. So we're going to try to, but I don't want to take anything away so people don't say that we changed our mind. I want to be able to trace back where maybe that decision was made, or so we give some advance notice of how it looked. All right. Spring and summer of 2021 was ESSER III. That's just this recently. The most recent round of federal funding coming our way is a very large sum of money, around $41 million. It addresses the same 15 spending categories, but adds 2 additional requirements. And it's going to push and suggest that we do face-to-face. We have to offer 5-day face-to-face instruction for all students, which we are doing. A lot of districts around the nation are not. There are a lot of schools in the nation that's not even open. This is a national effort. This is not South Carolina and just District 2. So some districts are way ahead and some districts are way behind. And so it's a mixture everywhere. We have to spend a minimum of 20% of that $40 million on learning loss. Previously, we've already spent, like in ESSER II, over 50% has been spent in the ESSER II funds on instruction. That's our biggest concern now. We feel like we're about as prepared as we can be with the safety issues, as long as we're wearing masks and social distancing, the things like that we might have some control over. But like size of classes, we did the best we could, but some of them are still so large it makes it difficult to be right where we would like to be. We've done the best that we could, and our numbers indicate that we've done quite a good job, obviously, in the schools with that. Public input now is going to be necessary. This is where it's different than 1 and 2. Public input will be asked. Is that mine? Okay. I don't even know where mine is. Okay. Plans must address all federal requirements. This is a federal option, and they're mandating that everything be addressed. Emphasis is still on, and more so than ever, offering or continuing to offer 5-day face-to-face instruction for all students. Remember, we're already back in full-time face-to-face here, so we're ahead on this one requirement. Emphasis continues to be on addressing learning loss, adding programs, interventions during the year, continuing our robust summer programs through 2024, class size reduction, intervention teachers, and et cetera, wherever we can infuse. Of course, the problem with all of this, for the first time in history, we've got rooms because we lost some students. Hopefully they're coming back. But we also, remember, we cleared up 111 rooms from labs that we did for technology. So we're in good shape on the rooms. The teachers are hard to find. We have a lot more openings we would like to have because teachers are just, it's impossible to find, and everybody's got the same problem that we do. But we do the best we can. Our principals are working hard on that. The spending plan and instructional plan should be linked together to keep students in school. So there'll be a spending plan and also an instructional plan, and they have to be linked together. Then we have to develop a timeline for board workshops and public input, and tonight we'll be unveiling how that's beginning to look for you to help us with. And then a final spending plan must be posted no later than August 24th. That's a spending plan. Now, you may have heard that there is a June 24th deadline for districts to submit their return to in-person learning plans. So what is due on the 24th? Districts without an in-person learning plan for 2021 must submit their plan by June 24th. Districts with an in-person learning plan by March the 24th, this past March the 24th, if you already had one, you've already met this requirement. Dorchester 2 is one of those districts. We have already met that requirement, so we are not expected to present anything on March the 24th. Our new date will be, well, that hasn't been decided yet. I think that could be as late as November for that one. But the spending plan has to be in by, let's see, the spending plan. August 24th. We've got all these 24th. Wonder why they chose that 24th, but it's so confusing. So August 24th is the spending one, and we're in good shape on that, but that gives us time to get our input together. That's where the input comes in, is on the spending as well as on the safety issues to prepare us for how we open school up and how we navigate the next couple of years. That's what the federal government would like to see. Because we returned to full face-to-face instruction prior to March 24th when ESSER III was passed. This date does not apply to us, of course. And so we're good at this point with our plan. We even reached out to this, we didn't believe it, we reached out to the State Department of Education to make sure that we were on solid footing and received a response from John Payne, who's in charge of this, on June the 9th. And so it was just recently, and you can see his response up here. It said, yes, for districts develop plans prior to the passage of March 24th. The Department of Education guidance says, and I think that's the part in italics, the second paragraph. This requirement will also ensure that an LEA that developed a safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan prior to enactment of the ARP Act, and the requirement will, at least within 6 months of receipt of its grant, revise as necessary and post its plan so that it addresses all of the safety recommendations included in the requirement. So appears we have down to November 24th as sort of the arbitrary date that has not been given to us finally. So with that in mind, that does help us with that piece of this puzzle that we're developing. And it tells us how we can research, and that's all on the website that will tell you how to research this to get more specifics. If you want to know more about those requirements, if you feel, we're still sketchy with some of this stuff, it's so hard to take in and remember all this. All right? Our existing plan with the link to the website has been sent to the State Department of Education. So our letting them know that that plan is there has been sent to them as another reminder. Here's the plan that was approved by the State Department way back in July, and here it is, and we'll be adding things certainly as we get the public input to be able to put together our final plans. Through the next few weeks, we'll be looking at where things are, and we'll make any needed adjustments to the learning plan prior to our start in August. If everything continues as they are going now, we do expect to open school in August with full normalcy. And I say that, there's nothing etched in stone anywhere. I'm just telling you, all guns ahead. We're removing as early as next week, beginning to move plexiglass out of our schools. We will be recycling or storing it for at least a year to possibly recycle it. But again, not knowing where this virus may go, what may happen, I don't want to ever have to purchase plexiglass the rest of my lifetime. So we're not going to get rid of it. We're going to hang on to it to make sure we don't need it, and then we will dispose of it the way the State Department wishes it to be, and that's they want it recycled. All this is going to be gone. Even though we're removing the plexiglass, we're leaving several of them. We're going to leave a few for each classroom if they want to use it for whatever reason. That's up to them. If not, it can be easily collapsed and removed. For small group instruction, as we develop our spending plan, which is tied to our existing learning plan, we have to remember that a condition of receiving these funds will be we must maintain a health and safety plan in our schools and across the district and address all required components set by the federal government to include providing and maintaining healthy and safe learning environments. And that's a mouthful when you say that. But if we follow the guidelines they've given us, and we don't see any reason we can't make all this happen, there's still a lot to be interpreted, and I'm sure in the coming weeks and months, more information will be coming out, clarifying what they're doing here and saying, and they'll probably add something else at the last minute. That's how we normally deal with this. But we think we're on the right course to be flexible enough to make whatever move we have to make at any given time. We'll continue to honor parent choice, utilizing the opt-out waiver when it comes to their child and face coverings. Remember, our ultimate goal is to be totally mask-free. But our governor and our president and everybody out there wants people to have a choice. We do too. We've provided that, and so that's still a parent choice. And I think we've talked about that too. We're giving them that option. Like now, even though I heard loud noises about removing them, and many did, many did not. And again, that's their choice. And we don't want any child ostracized or anybody bullied, picked on, and I'm not aware of any of those things. We had some reported early on, and they were all unfounded, and I've not heard anything in weeks about any of that. So obviously it's worked itself out. So to facilitate our conversation moving forward, we put a suggested timeline together. Please know that this is a proposal for you to discuss and adjust as you feel needed. It's the beginning place. Try and incorporate what we know are the deadlines and what we think has been proposed for us to do to help us navigate that. You start off on June 16th, and that's in 2 days. Open the ESSER III spending plan survey via the website. We're going to be surveying all the parents in Dorchester 2. And there'll be questions there about the survey. Hopefully we can have some kind of basic outline reminding them that this is a requirement for them to give us information, and that they don't have to do it, but this is their chance. That's one way that we're going to get started with it. Then July 9th, the spending plan survey closes. So that gives us a long time. It's out there for us to be able to pull that together. So at the board workshop on July the 19th, we'll have our first public input meeting to share the draft plan based on the input that we've received on all these surveys. Then on the 19th to the 30th, the website will be open for public comment on the draft plan. So if you can't make it to the meeting, you still have a good 2 weeks that you can offer additional plans, the same one that you did the first time if you want to, and new ones. And then August the 9th, we have the board workshop public input meeting at 4:30. Update on proposed final ESSER III plans. That will be our final board workshop meeting there. Then on August the 24th, the deadline that gives us time to turn around to make changes for your approval. So August 24th, we'll meet the deadline for posting ESSER III spending plan on our website and submitting it to the State Department of Education. So that takes us all the way through, and you see all the opportunities to hear about it, to see it, and give your opinion. I definitely want to summarize what I've said briefly, in that this has been a year like no other, really a year and a half, 15 months. But I must commend all of my teachers, all the principals, all the administrative teams, my cabinet, the students who've been the ones to give an awful lot, and the parents, and yes, you, the school board members, for working around the clock as we made scheduling changes one after another. There have been heated tempers, there's been disappointment, there's been excitement, there's been confusion. You name it, we've had it all. But this is the pandemic that caused all of that. No individual, no president, no superintendent, no principal, no board member caused any of this to happen. All we can do is navigate what was given to us. And it's an unknown, and we've navigated together. And when we work together, great things do happen. Everyone was flexible and adaptable, and everyone kept the main thing in focus, the students. Students are first in our district, and Team Dorchester made it happen over and over and over. And I'm proud to be superintendent. Questions?
I have a question. They want us, for the first time, to have public input. We didn't have to the other times. And I think that's extremely important, because that way they see what we are seeing. But what I'm wondering, and maybe you can help me, because this is the first time I've seen this, they've asked us to come up with a plan and get public input, but it seems like it is tightly tied into federal mandates. Is that true, or?
Well, they've broken the criteria down, and I hate to say it, and I, as superintendent, am faced with this too sometimes. When we tell schools they can have X number of dollars to do something, as much as you want to give it to them and trust people, if you don't set boundaries, you're going to have confusion. You have inequities among people. It's just a problem. As much as we don't want to tighten their belt, I understand why they have to. Remember, they're dealing with districts all over the United States. The people in New York City do not think the way the people in Miami think, and Miami does not think the way Somerville thinks. And we're all different, and it's about our community. But they give us a framework, and I think it's a fair framework, because they've really left it completely open to us about what can we do to stop this learning loss problem. How do we dig out of this hole that we have for our children, especially some groups of children, our special needs children, some of our children of color, our poverty children. I mean, there are different groups of kids that have suffered differently depending on, whatever's out there. We have to look at all of those, and we have to do things that's going to meet the needs of every group, not just one group. And so I'm glad they left us that flexibility, but they are tying it back to safety. They're not saying, we're just going to give you a pile of money and let's move on and just catch up. They want to make sure that we are keeping kids safe, and parents know that even though we're back face to face, we're doing everything in our power to keep us safe, like the sanitation stations, trying to do social distancing where possible, the face mask, where if that's a choice for parents to wear in that state or that place, that's an option given to parents, and we honor that, we work with them. Those are the things, rather than tightly saying yes or no to something. I think it's about fairness. Again, when you mess with the federal government, sometimes I'm left scratching my head, but I'm hopeful that this is a large pot of money, and spent right in the right ways could help put some dirt back in that deep hole that otherwise this district could never recover. We just don't have that kind of funding. So we don't have a choice but do this, but I know there's been a lot of rumors and things about it. It's just another twist by the federal government to control us. And I can't say it's not, and I can't say it is. I'm just seeing it for what it is, and if they want to give away the milk, I'm ready to drink it. To get our children where they need to be for the right reasons, and they are allowing us that flexibility. I don't think anything on our plans can be turned down. Up to this point, it really hasn't been. They've been pretty open. You can find a way around most of this. It's just that, and in the end, they're not really telling us we have to follow CDC guidelines, even though that's on everything we've got in the governor's waiver and all those things. That's not anything that I've seen here in writing sent to us. They're just wanting us to consider all those things and show our community and get input from our community. They do feel their children are safe.
Well, so they will take in mind that, like you said, every district is different. So every plan can be different even though they have.
That's what they
their-
say.
Okay.
And I think based, how many plans are they gonna have to look at?
I know.
A zillion. So I think it'll have to be grossly out of line, not some little teeny thing. I don't think they'll negotiate that. Yes, ma'am.
So, the governor's listed the emergency. And you're saying that we will open full time, I mean, wide open like normal.
As much as we can, but parents will still have a choice in the mask at this point, unless it changes from Columbia. That's what the governor wants, but his waiver.
Okay. But like Tammy just said about the CDC, we have to follow that according to the,
They recommend it. No place, staff correct me, has it been mandated? Every place like it's always been. It's up to you. And we put that in our plan in July. We've stayed to it, and it's worked for our district. But we're looking at so many other variables now, and because we're moving into the low ranges and staying there now for a few weeks, we just have high hopes we're moving out of this. And once parents begin to feel confident, more and more will sign the opt-out. I'm hopeful that more and more of our teachers and adults in the community will opt to be vaccinated if they can, so that we cut down on the possibilities of the spread. But again, we as a district have no control over that. We can just, I can't even hardly promote it. It's just one of those things it's a choice, and everybody has a reason why not, and that's up to them to make that choice.
it just sounds like kind of flip-flopping, like, okay, we go open back to normal, but, you know.
And when I say normal, I mean eating in the lunchroom, going up down the halls, recess. I'm talking about all the things we've always done. But if somebody wants to wear a mask, they can wear it now. They can wear a hat. They can wear whatever. If they, especially with this opt-out form, that's what it's all about. That's giving parents a choice. And like I said, most of them change that choice once they feel comfortable, whatever direction they didn't think they wanted to go. Now they decide that's the right thing for their children. That's what we're hoping for. And there won't be this division we've been seeing, and people just move on through, and the numbers finally work itself out, that we wake up one morning and we're all on the right page doing the same thing. Yes, ma'am.
So parents will have to sign the opt-out form in order for their children to not wear the mask next year.
Once they've signed the opt-out form, it'll be passed on. They don't have to sign it but one time.
But if they haven't signed it already, that's the only way their child will not wear.
That's the only way it should be.
And what about teachers and staff?
That hasn't been clarified, but I'm to the point that they should have the same courtesy as the children. Yes, ma'am.
And would they have a form, or would it be based on the same way, like kind of everything
Well,
else?
right
As if
now,
they're-
restaurants and all, are letting you go in, and stores. I was in Charleston this weekend. I went to dozens of stores, ate in 2 different restaurants. Everybody, including the manager, nobody, I didn't see one mask in all of downtown Charleston.
I agree. I haven't been anywhere else except school events where we're still wearing
Right,
masks.
that's true. And that's
So-
because we're still trying to honor that 78% who still are telling us they have a concern. So we're trying to honor that since they're a heavy majority.
But you think next year for our teachers?
Well, I think for the teachers, we're looking at things differently. I think our teachers understand. They've seen how good things have turned out. It's not perfect. I can't get in the heads of all of them, and some of them are going to still be frightened or what have you. But I know we had a teacher leave us first of the year for COVID. She told us that. Outstanding teacher. She's coming back as of today.
That's good.
People are feeling better that we're putting in place things that can help them in their child care centers where the kids were. It's not just Dorchester too, but the child care center is safer for their child and all. And elderly parents who are living with them now have the vaccination. So we're sensing that feeling that it's not over, but it is loosening up, and people feel that it's working for them. So we're trying to promote that. We're trying to promote a healthy school environment, but we have to keep insisting to everybody, we've got a lot of learning to catch up on. We were not afforded a full school year and a half, and we really do need to get back to trying to be as solid like we've always been with that focus. With safety's always been important for us too, but We're trying to look at every avenue on this, but we're realizing that all the people who put out the mandates in the beginning, every one of them pulls them back when you question them and says, it's up to you, whatever you would like to do. That's not a good answer.
And then, so students, teachers, and then what about parents and visitors? Will we be able to have, like, PTA volunteers, that sort
I
of thing?
think we,
Will be able to
like I
have
said,
that
that's
at
when I
schools?
said normalcy, I can't see every single thing, but those are the big items that I don't know why we wouldn't be doing it. Because if not, then use the word normalcy would be wrong.
So then my other question is, if we're not updating our plan, like, when was our plan submitted that's already been approved? You're saying that was last July?
Last July.
So I guess, is it still relevant? I mean, do we need a new plan moving forward because things are so different?
Well, we're at the end of the plan. We pretty well gotten ourselves to the end of the plan, and masks were never in the plan, one way or the other. That came up later after we did our plan.
They're saying we're still gonna have to have a plan through like 2023 or something.
Right, but
So
we have to update it
It has to be
before
updated every
November.
6 months, right.
By November.
Right. So I'm just saying, does it need to be updated before we go back to school? Because
We're looking
still-
at, that's what we're working on. Yes, ma'am, we're working on that now.
Okay.
It's just
I
we
just know
hadn't-
people have a lot, like, how we're saying we want these students to come back, and we certainly do. We don't want to lose more. People are making decisions right now
They
based
are
on
making
what
them
we're
now.
telling them, and it feels like we're not giving enough information, and
All right, but I don't know what else I can't promise that. I mean, if y'all are waiting for me to say everything is fine, and tomorrow morning we're gonna start that, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. So, and that's where I think the rub is. People don't understand that we're still trying to err on the side of safety. We're trying to do this, not knee-jerking. We're not trying to do it because a particular group browbeat the stew out of us. We're trying to do what we think is fair to everybody involved, our teachers, our students, our community, and we're not going to please anybody, hardly, and we're definitely not going to please all the people. We're going to have that, and we have that no matter what the environment is. We've always experienced it, not this bad, and it's like it's not going to end, and I can't get one morning and say it's perfect tomorrow. I've checked with every district in South Carolina, and we're in the top 20% where we're going. So if we're going slow, you've got some districts in South Carolina that's pitiful. Like I said, many districts in the nation having open school, their children are still home on the computers. So I'd like to think we've made advancements. It's just, and it's looking really, really good. That's why I'm confident, but don't have a crystal ball where I can say
And I
that.
absolutely understand that, but I guess my thought is, do we just make our decisions not based on fear, but then if things change, I mean, you're right, we can't promise that something doesn't, I mean, we can't promise anything to people, so things could change and we have to make changes, but looking at how things are right now,
But if you tell somebody we're going to do something, you don't do it, you talk about criticism, they're going to come in here and quote you, they're going to have the tape. This is what you said at this time on this day. You did not do it, you lied to us. That's not going to be said on Joe Pye because I don't know what to tell you. I've tried to express, I know nothing about this pandemic. All of y'all know as much as I do more, and I've never said differently. I don't really know what to do. And I talked to my 62 people, and it's 62 to 0 on everything we've done. I have tremendous support within the district on this. And obviously, 78% of our students still wearing a mask says that I've got a lot of support in the community. We don't hear from them because they're happy. They trust us. We hear from people who don't trust us, and I don't know what I can do to make them change their mind. That's not what I'm trying. I don't know how to do that.
well, and I respect what you're saying totally, but I also think it's not just that they don't respect us, but that they're genuinely concerned about their kids.
And they should be.
Their children,
Yes.
and making a plan for next year. So that's my.
Well, that's what we're doing, and they'll be giving us their input. We've got all summer to make this plan. Now, granted, those who are making plans, I don't know what to tell them about making plans, but they're faced with that anyway every year. Do I go to private school? Matter of fact, it's too late to even go. Private schools are all full. I don't think they're taking anybody. Most daycares are full. I mean, things like that have already happened. The deadline's already passed, so I don't think there's a rush to do it within 2 weeks. I think time is on our side as the federal government still works through this. I look for some changes, and Columbia's going to have their interpretation, some changes, and then we too will be given flexibility that we can opt to do. And hopefully people would say, y'all have followed the course, you've done this, this, and this, and things have worked out generally well. we now trust you as we move into this other zone. That's what we're hoping we can do. And there's just no crystal ball on it. That could happen as early as next week. I really would love to have brought a plan to you. I've called every district I know to call. I can't get anybody to tell me they have anything close to a plan ready. They're right where we are. And they're still watching. They're calling me. We're calling them. It's just, and again, when you deal with the State Department, and I hate to keep saying that in a negative way because they do a lot of wonderful things, but we get such mixed messages from them. And just like you do with CDC and the others, we get these things that sound like life or death, yes or no answers, nothing in between. And then whichever side we pick and someone chooses to check it out, they're told, oh, that was up to the district. We don't mandate anything. We just suggest. So we're just hoping somebody will finally suggest something or to completely give us the flexibility to do what we're trying to do now. But I want everybody to understand our goal is everybody back as normal as possible. Now, the face mask, I don't know how we're going to do that. I guess I can bring that to the board, and y'all can decide if we still have 50% or 70% wanting to wear the mask, then what do you want us to do with that? Do we tell them they can't wear the mask, and y'all feel comfortable with that? Or do we just continue, that's your choice, whatever? I think now with the teachers and with adults, it's a horse of a different color, because they have an option. They're not forced to maybe do this.
Mr. Pye, can the
Yes.
board choose not to wear a mask?
You've been vaccinated, haven't you?
Sir?
You've been vaccinated, yes?
Why, yeah, and I've had it.
And I wouldn't know if you were not, but if you were in downtown Charleston, any restaurant, any place in Charleston, you would not be required to tell anybody what you have on. That has not changed for us because of all the stuff we've received from the medical university, Trident Medical Hospital, CDC, all that group. Everybody errs on the side of you can't do enough. And then, but I think things are changing so rapidly that people are disregarding some of those things. And as they disregard them, if the numbers do not go up, it's going to make it a hard case for them to continue. That's what I'm thinking could happen. And I think it would make everybody's day if more people were on the same page and we were made not to feel guilty because we're going against something that someone's implying that's going to affect our health when they're supposed to be the experts.
Mr. Pye, thank you for all that information. And I just wanted to point out, I think a lot of the last pieces there are in policy. So if the board wants to change that, if the board wants to revisit any of that, the masking and all that, which I think we're already doing. So, but I did have a couple questions going back to the ESSER funding specific to the workshop. Looking at my assumption is that first round of community input that will open up here in a couple days, my assumption is and you tell me if you think I'm wrong, I don't think we'll get a lot of input. I mean, that's a pretty open forum, correct? I don't know that the general public would know.
Well, we don't normally get a lot at the meetings to come forth, but because of the survey and the length of time we're leaving it, we tend to get a lot more replies. That way people feel they can speak this because we have no idea who sent it, whatever. It's just a gauge. It's not maybe a scientific one as much as I'd like, but it is a gauge that we have. Other than a requirement, I really would like to see what's out there, how much knowledge is out there about some other things that we might need. I know no one's mentioned, but the quality of air is just so important there. But like our buses, school buses, we have 35 of our buses that do not have air conditioning. We own them. That's in this plan. That's something I'd like to see. We're not talking a big ticket item, but that's the quality of air for the kids when they're on the bus to and from school, rather than stifle air without that. And also, there's like 35 state buses that they have so much money given to them, I can't imagine that they would not go ahead and finish up their state buses. No matter how old they are, if they're going to use them, every child ought to have the same equality of type bus atmosphere. And I think we've asked parents, and they've done that's probably the greatest thing that's happened to us this last year and a half, is the parents listened to our plea and have taken their children back and forth to school, which has freed us up of the mandate that's on the buses, and that's still there too. That's another thing. Molly Spearman indicated that we'll know something in the next week, but I think she's ending that like right now. And once that ends, that's gonna open all kind of doors.
Yep. And
Okay.
so, and you answered the question, and again, I think you said it earlier, I don't know if there's a way to frame that initial community input so we actually get valuable feedback. Because what I worry about is people will see that and then they're gonna say, oh, well, you just need to build a brand-new elementary school with that funding. You're about to get $40 million. and they don't-
We probably need to send out a, whether they look at it or not, but maybe a concise bullet type form of the kind of stuff we're looking for. Here are the things you cannot go with. This is not meant for capital improvement
Yeah.
items, new schools and things. We can't give teachers a raise, and we can't do things like that. It's not for supplements and all. It is strictly something that's been hurt by COVID. Like in our case, the teacher shortage has been made bigger. We have got to reduce class size, so I'm going to use it to buy teachers. And we will lose teachers every year. And so if we got through 2024, I'm going to use as much as I can, knowing that by 2024, I can recycle out if we're down to the numbers we'd like to have.
Yep, I like it, and that's what I was saying, just that framework I think is important. And then again, on the second version, when we get to an actual plan or we have a draft plan, I think you'll probably get more feedback because folks can look at the plan and say, okay, I like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. But going back to specific community input, is there a way, so it sounds like we're doing a lot of this online, we'll send out emails, we'll request that feedback. Is there a way that we could set up, I think, either figure out maybe our communities or pockets of the district that have been the most hit by a lot of this? I think we know what those areas are, those student populations, and maybe set up some in-person type meetings at those schools or those areas to get that type of input.
I have no issue with that.
I just think it
That's
could
good.
be beneficial.
You're right. When people don't come to you, and it's important for us to give them an opportunity to tell us what might be on their mind, then going to them, I think, takes away that thing of you didn't make it too available. It was too easy, too set up. You already had it figured out. You already got a plan. We do not have a plan. Like I said, I could sit here all day and rattle off 100 things that I've heard mentioned, but there is no plan. We're going to let the public help us develop that plan. But unfortunately, in the end of the day, a lot of ideas may be, as good as they may be, may not be eligible. And when they don't see their item, it's like, oh, well, I told you they were going to listen to me anyway. So it would be good if we could document, go back to the list and you'll see the criteria where it didn't fit this. We didn't make this up. In other words, we're going to stretch as much as we can. And I think there's going to be more flexibility than it looks like, because I don't know how they're going to manage it as tight as I would want managed if I had these criteria in place. So I think they're going to allow us some flexibility to make it fit.
Good. And then the last thing I
Should've said
had, outside of the ESSER funds, so we're
Yes.
talking about federal dollars, is there any sort of indication when we look at the different title programs and the different federal funds moving into next year and the years after, is there indication that those funds would increase as well due to COVID?
I think this is the end of it. Don't you agree? Have you heard anything, Julie?
No, sir, not from the other title funds. What we're hearing is this is all separate. Now, Mr. Wyndham could probably speak to specific title, because he manages those grants or Mr. Communier. But for them to increase because of the ramifications of COVID, no, sir.
Okay.
This is the replacement
To
money.
Mike?
make you whole from COVID, essentially.
Yes, sir.
Mike, what do you know about it?
They keep the same criteria as they have in the past, which gets down to our census, poverty census, is what we get money from the feds from to come to the state. And then we give it out to the schools based on what they give us. We were cut $400,000 this year. So COVID didn't help us at all.
We
this
don't-
year. I'm hoping that we'll go back up, but you never know, because they take our total population, they take our census and put it all together. And since our population went down this year, and they're always a year behind, we don't know what it's gonna be next year. We could get dug in next year.
That's true. And that's opposite of this. Here we're getting money for this, and we're being cut for that, which has always been the way we've dealt with students to try to equalize the playing field. So it's just mixed messages that we get. I don't understand why. And of course, as we hear, our state has millions and millions of excess monies, but even though we're getting it for this, that money could be used for something like buses or something else that's earmarked that we don't ever get any. This is a one-time opportunity, so I don't know who's buying the ship, but that right now, no one seems to know where that money might end up, and it doesn't appear to be education.
Got it.
So,
Thank you,
I
thank
hope
you.
we-
Right now, it seems they're not good. I did know that they said that, in, Biden's budget, that he was trying to raise the amount of title money. But that, the budget would have to pass before any of that did. And that's totally separate from any of these, ESSER funds at all. And so we just, it's where we are, and we'll stay just like we are until something else, until they put more money in Title I, I guess.
Any other questions? That finishes this presentation. I'll do a brief summary. I plan to do a brief summary in the State of the District. I've got a couple other announcements, things that we need to mention, so, and when we, at the end of it, we need you to, I guess, begin to let me know how this calendar looks for board members, so we can build it around your time, because I would hope that many of you could find time to be at every one of those sessions, so you can hear what the people say. We won't have to, I won't have to repeat it. You can hear it. You can hear, if you hear the same thing in 4 input sessions, then it must be doggone important. And so I think that might help explain it, and whatever we explain is, if it's on the list or can't be on the list, you will get educated at the same time, so as you feel questions out in the community, you will be up to speed on that too, from the knowledge you gained this, because we're all learning together. I tell you tonight everything I know. That's every single thing I know about this.
So, Mr. Pye, this is something that is going to be included in your State of the District,
A
this,
summary of this, yes, and
Yes.
definitely the suggested timeline.
because we're going to need to give some type of input at the board meeting so
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you can move forward with this, because it's going to be starting in a couple of days. So, so if you can kind of take note of those dates, so that we can, maybe in between the board now and the board meeting, you can kind of look at your calendar, so that whenever he brings it up again, maybe we can have a discussion as to whether it's going to fit into everybody's schedules or whatever. So, anybody have any other questions? Comments? Okay, then we are going to adjourn this workshop, and we'll be back at 6 o'clock for a board meeting.